All right, so quick update, mostly for the people that follow this channel for Dark Nova and such. Uh, Obviously, since you've seen some of the videos I put up here, I've moved, relocated back to Alaska. Yeah, to say I've been busy is an understatement, and to say I'm going to continue to be busy for the near future, also an understatement. That being said, on my days off and the girls are at school, I am getting some work in on the novels and such. In fact, I'm about to get back to working on the anthology in just a minute as soon as I finish this up. So this is where things are basically laying out. And I do have some people that follow that are part of the Kickstarter backing and whatnot that have noticed some of the things in there have not been fulfilled, mostly related to the novels. As I stated in that, that's going to take time because I've got to get the novels out and whatnot. But it is being done. It's not a dead thing. All the immediate rewards were given out, obviously, people that got books, that sort of thing. But things like I had one backer that funded helping to develop a character from one of the novels. That's still in the works. That's going to happen. It's just with writing as a profession is one thing. Writing when you're having to work at around your day job and being a single parent, that's kind of like herding flaming cats while playing The Floor is Lava in Pompeii in the beginning of the first century, while also, the cats are on meth and teleporting at random. So, and displacer beasts on top of that. So, it's not easy, and it's not going to happen quickly because priorities are obviously work, pay bills, take care of kids, keep life, that sort of thing, and then the books and whatnot. The Dark Nova RPG is not on hold I don't want to say on hold, it's just the wrong way of phrasing it. It's getting poked and prodded at a little bit, but primarily right now my focus is the novels because that's where this whole damn thing started almost 30 years ago. And I need to get back to that because for those of you that aren't aware, the Dark Nova role-playing game came about because a friend of mine who's an avid D&D gamer, he was part of my gaming group, back in I think, around 95, 96, well, about 96, I think. Because early 96. I hadn't started the police academy yet. So he read what I had gotten written for The Calling of Heroes, the first novel that I'd been working on. And noisy cat, came to me and basically grabbed me, and you gotta understand, this guy's half my size, so it was rather amusing, grabs me by my shirt, he's like, you have to make a game about this. And so we started poking around. We took the setting and actually turned it into a game setting. And we used, I want to say we used Rifts initially. We tried GURPS, but GURPS didn't work because it tries to force balance. And as those of you that have played Dark Nova know, you can't do balance in the real world, and Dark Nova is based very much in... it's obviously sci-fi, but it's based in reality to a greater extent than a lot of games are. You're going to have races that are stronger and better than others. There's other things that limit them. Plus, balance doesn't exist in the real world in the conventional sense, so why try and force it into a game? So GURPS didn't work out, and we kind of poked and prodded at our own system, even used the second edition AD&D as the base, which is ironically why the game has the mechanics that it does, because that worked out really well for combat, but it didn't work out for skills and other things. So, anyway, I got so sidelined by the early 2000s working on the game that I put the novels aside and didn't work on them at all. And lo and behold, 2006 rolls around, and I knocked out the first prototype of the game. And then we play tested it internally with our own game group. It worked out really well. We liked it. And so 2010, I went back on contract over in Iraq. And we were working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I had nothing to do in my downtime. So I had a laptop. And I had the novels and such. I had the beginning material of what I'd written for the game and such. I had a whole lot of notepads with just different rules. I actually have made sure I've kept all the original notes dating back to the 90s for all the stuff that I've been developing. So I occasionally find those, and it's a trip down memory lane. But, so yeah, my downtime, it was go to the PX and waste time do what a lot of the other guys did, blow money and buy a TV and an Xbox or something like that, if you could have power. We moved up from hardened tents into actual chews, which for those of you that don't know, that's a little 10 by 10 room that's, take a 30-foot travel trailer, divide it up into 3 rooms, cram 2 guys into each room. That's what we were living in. It was worse for our Ugandans because those guys are crammed 4 to a room. Yeah. 2 was bad enough. So anyway, I got back from vacation rotation, and we had to change billets. All I had was my bunk, my bedding, my laptop, and my personal gear, and the equipment we got issued, and a wall locker. That was it. And I helped out one of our Ugandans who he'd had an injury that he was trying to... I'm not outing anybody because that contract's been shut down, so this is an OPSEC or breach of anybody's privacy, so I won't say who it was. But he had an injury that would, if he went to the TMC, probably got him sent home, and these guys were dependent on staying there in country to make the money they needed, because if they got rotated back, somebody might take their slot. And I was the lead medic for the team, so I took care of his injury, and he said, whatever you need, just let me know. I can get it for you. Now, this guy turned out to be our best black market specialist. If we needed anything, this son of a bitch could find it. I mean, anything. Which is really damn handy when I was short medical gear and I needed some. I didn't ask where it came from, but he got it when I needed. And I told him, if you can find like a little tray table or like something I could put beside my bunk so I can actually put my laptop on, because the laptop gets really hot when it's sitting on my lap. He's like, got you covered. I pull my shift. I come back off shift, and there's a fucking office desk and a chair there that says ECP-13 Commander on the back of it. Yeah, so if you're the commander of ECP-13 for the contract, I'm not out his name, but should have secured your shit better. I'm just saying. Whoops. So that became my writing desk. That became my writing station, and yeah, that was entertaining to come back to that. But yeah, so I just sat there on my downtime. I got off work. I'd sit for an hour or so and work on the mechanics. If I didn't have the brains to come up with setting stuff, I'd work on the mechanics and the crunch. So for those of you that know the gaming industry, you know those terms. Those that don't, there's what's called fluff and crunch. And I'm pretty sure because fluff was the term they used for the setting and the lore, that those terms were come up with by the crunch guys, because it sounds like something they would say. Crunch are the mechanics. It's the game mechanics, the stats, all of that sort of stuff. It's the engine on which the game works, so to speak. Tabletop role-playing games are no different from video games. They have to have a mechanics engine that makes the whole thing flow. Even games that are pretty loose and fluid, like Fate. Lenny and I have gotten into discussions, and Ken and Lenny have gotten into really interesting discussions, well, absolutely locked to the gills at an after party at a convention, about the differences between dice-based mechanics and something like Fate. But I don't know, as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. But even with something like Fate, you still have rules and mechanics that hold it together. So that's called crunch. The setting, the story, the lore, the character designs, the world building, all of that, that's called fluff. So fluff is more my bailiwick as a writer, especially since the entire universe was in my head and coming out there. And that was what I like to work on, but you get writer's block. It happens. I mean, I've had writer's block last years before. That's why the novels got choked up so much. And yeah, so if I didn't have the brain to work on the fluff, I could do the crunch because it's mostly just mathematics and go back and forth like that. Next thing you know, I wrote a 500-page main manual in, 3 months? I think is when I got it done. And then it was just getting artwork in there, getting cleaned up, edited, whatnot. The first version that came out had some issues with formatting and some glitches and some mistakes. So fix those, put it back out. So, and that was what a lot of you know from having run it and played it and that sort of thing. But I got a lot of feedback from my players that are out there around the world and decided, okay, this needs a second edition or revised edition, because the biggest hang up, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is character creation, because it takes for bloody ever. Even those of us that wrote the game and worked on it, it takes us half an hour to knock a character out, and we know where everything is. For new players, it's very intimidating for new players and new game masters, so we're working on making that a little easier to work into. But that's going to require a lot more work, because we are going to do it right and go through with a fine-tooth comb and find every single thing Every email I've received, every bit of feedback I've gotten, everything I've learned from people at conventions that they had problems with, we're going through line by line with all the notes we've taken and looking at, okay, how can we improve this? How can we fix this? That sort of thing. And then, okay, we fixed this, but what does it affect down the chain? And it creates this propagation, the butterfly effect, effectively going through the rules, which you got to be careful about because you can unbalance things without realizing it, that really screw things up. So that's happening in bits and pieces on the side, but my primary focus is to get back to the novels because I've neglected those for freaking years. And that's where this, like I said, that's where this whole thing started. So that's my primary focus right now, is at least getting the anthology out. And that actually works for those that play the game as well, because the anthology is a series of short stories from the perspective of different character archetypes. You got a free trader, you got a Templar, you got a mercenary, you've got a courtesan, which those are the weirdest ones to try and roleplay, because not a lot of people know. I mean, you know what mercenaries are to some extent. You know what a free trader is. You know Han Solo, Captain Malcolm Reynolds, things like that. You get the idea. Courtesans are a little harder because they're kind of a niche thing that fits into feudal societies. So that was an odd one. Also, the Hunter Priest's tale is going into the alien mindset, where you've got a Grodin Hunter Priest. And as I'm writing these, I'm actually getting some ideas for additional tales I can add in, but I want to get those core ones done first before I start adding anything else in. But that I'm hoping to have. I don't want to put time frames on these because every time I do, something comes up, blindsides me, and I wind up getting absolutely wrecked and hammered with stuff that takes up all my time, or something, some emergency breaks loose, some other major life change happens, things like that. And that's the reason why I've stopped putting release dates or target dates. That and also kind of learned from watching EA, and as much as I hate to say it, CDPR, getting hung up on arbitrary release dates and making absolute cock-ups of the product as a result. So I also don't want to go the Chris Roberts route, and I say that being somebody who's an avid lover of Star Citizen. I don't want to go that route and just say, well, whenever we get around to it, 10 years later, you're still in development. Trying not to do that either. But, yeah. So right now, that's where my focus is, and since I just moved a couple of months ago, that is going to bog things down a wee bit, especially since I'm also trying to wrangle being a single dad of 3 kids. Just all the different things that come with moving to a new region, especially a frontier region like this where shit's different up here. I mean, I grew up a good chunk of my life here, and I know it better than most. But even for me, things have changed enough to where it's a learning curve even for me. Plus, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult now with my own kids, so I'm coming at it from a very different perspective than I did when I grew up here. And that's throwing some more curveballs that I didn't have to deal with, that I'm now having to learn new things like, housing shortage is a problem, especially here in Juneau. That is a massive problem because they don't have long-term rentals. The freaking cruise ship market has this city held hostage. And so like 70% of the freaking rentals that I've seen are all short-term for the seasonal workers. And, when you need a long-term rental, kind of screwed. Manpower shortages. That was something that didn't exist until a few years ago. We've got jobs galore up here that pay really, really well, but nobody wants to work them. We can't get people to fill them. I work for the state. We can't fill our jobs. JPD, they can't fill their jobs. Everybody. I mean, even bus drivers. They've had to cut bus routes, and they've had to merge school bus routes because they can't find drivers, and they pay really well. So these are things that I didn't have to deal with growing up that I now have to as an adult. And it bogs things down. It makes the creative process go straight in the toilet because it's kind of hard to write when you're stressed about, okay, am I going to have to work like double overtime this week because somebody else called in or somebody else quit or something like that. These are issues that you got to worry about. This is the thing is I had to deal with, obviously, for the past 30-something years since I've been an adult, but adjusting to the quirks of Alaska and that at the same time, So it's happening. I'm just putting it out there. These things are being worked on. They are not going to be happening quickly, though. I would love to have the anthology done by the end of this year. Might happen, might not. I don't know. That, in large part, depends on whether I've got the brain to do it and the time to do it. Now, thankfully, my children are older and they're beginning to realize that, oh, yeah, we want Daddy to work from home, but to do that, he has to be successful at writing. And to do that, we have to stop banging on his bloody door every 5 minutes with our latest litany of petty complaints and arguments. Maybe we should do that. So, you know, any parent out there, you know what I mean. But, no, for the most part right now, the novels are happening. The game is getting worked on. For those of you that are looking at print-on-demand editions from Drive-Thru RPG, right now the issue with that is they've changed their format, and I need to have the PDF redone to be able to be print-on-demand, because they're using a different printer that uses a different type of paper, and so the current formatting is incompatible. And the problem with that is I suck at formatting. I thankfully have a friend who does it, but unfortunately he's kind of busy right now because he's got a child of his own and he's got to be wrangling me, and he's, doing the dad thing as well. And he's still down in Texas, so I can't exactly just, knock over to his house and hand it off to him. But that's going to get knocked out here pretty shortly. But the PDF versions are still available. And once we get the formatting done, then I'll be back on print on demand. I'm hoping by the end of this month. I mean, I'll see if he's available to do it now that his extracurricular schedule is kind of settled down with Sherwood ending, because he's a big Rennie as well. So TRF, Sherwood, Heinefall, Scarby, it does all those. Once that season settles down here by the end of May, well, he should be able to do it. It doesn't take long for him to do it. It's just a matter of having the availability to do it. And once that's done, then yeah, that'll be back up and running. Now, for those that have the older edition, when the revised edition comes out, it's going to have an errata section in the back. So you don't have to buy the hard copy book. The PDF book will work just fine. The PDF version is going to be the same price as what it's up there now for. So that would give you the updated PDF with all the new artwork that we're putting in there, without having to buy the whole hard copy book again. But it also, the errata that you can use to adjust for that. I can't say I'm going to put out a free errata document yet, because I don't know. It's already looking like the amount of changes we have to make are going to be enough to where somebody could technically use the system without buying the book. And I hate to say it, but I'm not making a lot of money off this. It's done mostly because I love it, but I still got to support. I have to pay artists and that sort of thing. I still got to support all of that. So, but things like the archetype sheets, the pre-filled, pre-generated archetype characters, things like that, those will go up for free. So those are, because honestly, even if you got the old edition, you don't want to buy the new edition, they're still going to be compatible enough to where you could take those plug and play and use them. What my goal with this is, I'm trying not to make it so different that it's like a different game. And the changes we've got are moderate enough to require a new version, but minor enough to where it's not going to be like the differences between 2nd edition AD&D and 3rd edition D&D, where they were incompatible. It's more like the differences between 1st and 2nd edition AD&D. For those of you that are grognards like me that played those, where you could actually plug and play the parts back in. It's what I run. It's a hybrid between the two. So that's what we're shooting for, is to keep it compatible enough to where it can be backwards compatible, but also make sure that we clean up the rules a little better, make character generation smoother and more efficient, and fix some of the other quirks, clarify a few things, add some things in we honestly wanted to put in the first place that didn't. And also new art. Got a lot of new art, and some of it is from new artists, some of it is old artists that have produced some new work. We've also got some a lot more filler art than we had, because I managed to get a good deal on buying a bunch of different sketches and such. So that's going to make it a little more, it's going to make the book pop more. And I'm also looking at cover art, because Jeff and I did the cover art for the first book, and then Erica and I did the cover art for the second book. And unfortunately, she passed cancer, unfortunately, a few years ago. So I don't want to change the Fortune and Glory art, because that's an homage to her. Plus, it looks awesome. So even the new edition is still going to use that same cover art, because honestly, Erica was awesome. Her art was great. I want to keep that. The core book, on the other hand, the cover art for that, Jeff and I are going to figure something out, but we're probably going to hire a second artist and basically put the concept art together ourselves and have them do a much more professional cover art for that. So Anyway, so that's an update on where Dark Nova is right now. Again, novels are being worked on currently. Second edition and War both are kind of getting poked and prodded as we go along. I want to get the second edition done before I work on War because of the rules changes. So, anyway, that's where we are now. Till next time.